to the Behind the Drapes podcast. I'm your host, Expo Rich, and we are recording live here at IAEE EXPO EXPO in Dallas, right on the trade show floor. And I'm honored to have Courtney Harold here with me as my special guest. And Courtney is now with business development with Informa and Off-Price Show, right?
Yep, we're on the off-price, we're on the fashion business.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And what we do on this show is time and time again, like our entire careers are based on making our clients shine and making the customers, creating the customers to buy and sell, and no one ever knows the people that are behind the drapes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do is I like to be able to get into the minds of the people that are making these things happen. And that's why I invited you here today, because I want people here to hear your story and hear all about your journey through the trade show industry and just what's going on now. So with that, everybody's got an origin story, and all of my friends who I talk to have stumbled upon this industry in one way or another.
Very true.
Very little recruiting at a college.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find your way into trade show?
Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but it's funny that you say behind the drape and nobody knows, because as somebody, we all might have gone to a cocktail party or two before, when you try and explain that you're in the trade show industry, they automatically assume you just build the booths.
Yep.
Right? So it's very interesting because there's so much strategy behind it.
Yeah.
And people don't understand outside the industry that you get 10, 20, 30, 50,000 people into a location twice a year. You have to be very intelligent to be able to do that.
Right.
And but outside the industry, somehow they can't wrap their heads around it. It's very strange. Anyway, so I did stumble upon it, to your point, because I attended trade shows. I was in manufacturing and textiles, and I traveled to shows all over the world. And there was some kid who was at World Shoe Association at the time when they went from a nonprofit to for-profit. And he was trying to launch a sourcing show. So he was at some of these sourcing events, and we started talking, and I was giving him all of the lowdown on what he should do. And then I met his boss, and she actually recruited me in to kind of run the show. So it would and help launch that show at WSA. So WSA at the time was the largest footwear show. I mean, the largest show in the U.S. It was 1 million square feet. 6 weeks later, we were acquired by ENK, which is they were owned by Forstmann Little at the time. And they had 26 apparel shows. So we were footwear, they were apparel. And I'm going to tell you these acquisitions because my life just seems to be like a boomerang right now. And so we were then bought by ENK, and they operate very differently. We were a well-oiled machine. We had our floor plan planned out a year in advance. And they had usually, at the time, not now, their floor plan planned out in 20 minutes in advance. So it was a very different culture. So from an integration standpoint, it was very different. I then was recruited by Joe Loja over at Advanced Star, where I learned a lot. So at the time, when ENK bought us, then my role flipped, and I started to figure out, I was asked by the president, Tom Nastos, how to bring brands to one of the BRIC countries at the time. So this is 15 years ago. So was it China? Was it Brazil? Was it Russia? And obviously I settled in on China very specifically because I had to go flip myself. I'd been going to China and Asia for manufacturing. So I understood it from a manufacturing standpoint. Then I had to flip it and start to understand it from a retail very differently. So there I was with translators at trade shows over there. I'm like, ask that person why they're here. Ask that person. Right. And it was great because I was in these big tier 1 cities, Beijing and Shanghai, where manufacturing, I was always in tier 3 and 4 cities and sleeping in places nobody ever wants to sleep and eating things. But so that's sort of how I got in, and from other trade shows, being an exhibitor, and then I became the part of the organizer. And with everything, it is very different being on the organizer side. There's a lot to learn. And so I loved it coming from the standpoint of I like to grow. I like to have multiple stakeholders to work with and to be able to make things happen. So I sort of always was in new launches and development, and that's sort of my passion and something I think I'm good at, as well as I love expanding beyond your traditional trade show product.
Yeah.
I just gave you a long-winded answer.
No. It was good because recently I've been speaking to a few different people, and there's been a lot of action in acquisition lately. So there's a theme of people working with their own company and ended up with another, just
right, and you're all back.
So but no, it's great. And through your roles, I'm sure that you've taken a lot of positions in leadership and stuff. And I also like to talk to people about how they developed as a leader. And one of the things that I know is most important in my growth in my journey has been mentors. And so are there any mentors that has really inspired you to be a better leader, better at the job, or whatever?
So I'm going to go a little bit further back than my trade show life, but just because along the way it's interesting, and I'm going to sound negative, but it's very hard to find a good leader. Like I thought that was a natural, innate thing. When people were promoted into a role, I assumed that they knew what they were doing or knew how to lead, right? And a lot of people don't.
Right.
So what I started to finally realize is, what is it that I'm going to learn from this person? Maybe it's not traditional, but what can I, what are they doing that I appreciate? So I started out with a very an amazing person in advertising, and then I worked for a company, Polar Tech, the fleece company. And so I worked for somebody who was a maverick, right? And this is kind of a funny story. Right. I think this is what you talk about on podcasts. I'm not sure. But he was a maverick. He was a way creative, outside the box thinker, visionary. But that's how I am. Every test, I don't know if you were there this morning when you took the test with the speaker this morning. But so, I'm the Banksy of the group, right? Like every personality test, and so was he. And so then I used him as a mentor to, hey, I need to take a step back. I'm working as I move throughout companies. I need to take a step back because I'm moving too fast. Right. Help me navigate this so I can effectively launch something new. So that was my old boss at Polar Tech, and that we've stayed in touch with. And then in the trade show world, I started working with Skip Farber. He unfortunately just passed away.
Yeah.
But, that was really my entree into trade shows. And he was really smart and he understood the industry and was born and raised in it. And then just and then through that, David Audrain has been a very big resource for me as well. We actually hired them as our operations team. When I was at World Pet Association, I have a portfolio of 3 or 4 shows, consumer and B2B. But David Audrain is very well known, very well connected, and also was passionate about helping people. And so he has been very good to me. Then as we've evolved through COVID, Martha Donata has launched this women's networking program. Prior to that, it was not labeled. It was just a women's group. It's now labeled to women, WIEN, W in exhibition networking. And so I've found mentors within that and through Martha. So, I'll just call her, text her, whatever it is. And it's really elevated networking to a different level of support, right? Rachel Wimberly, who's at Parsons, now moving into Informa as well, has also been a good mentor or someone to look up to as well. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, she's definitely done a lot.
Yes. Yeah, she's done a lot.
So what are some of the things that you're working on these days that you're excited about?
Right.
What gets you excited to get out of bed?
So I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anyone.
Okay.
So, because I'm really passionate about it. So I just spoke over with Michelle Metters over in the Innovation Lab. And so we're a legacy show. We've been around for 30 years, right? And we've got to innovate, we've got to grow, and we've got to figure it out. Unfortunately, we're sitting in that world where you've got your legacy exhibitors who don't want to change, don't want to spend more money, don't want to do anything. And then yet we're getting pressured as an industry
by new attendees.
Right. Get new attendees, sell digital advertising on your website, right? I'm being very black and white about that, right? Build an advertising, revenue structure. Well, this pool of people is not going to give us that. So the way I look at things is, okay, yeah, you're right. They're not going to be buying new advertising. So then therefore we have to develop new products that help us leverage our existing asset. What are trade shows' biggest assets? Our database. So it's twisting the conversation and just evolving the conversation for our internal team by I've created new presentations, new sales presentations to really outline our database.
Right.
That we're not just 10,000 people a year that come to our show, right? We have a database of 50,000 people that you can engage with throughout the year. And I'm not going to tell you about a virtual webinar. I'm not going to think about, virtual. It's not that. But how can we bring these buyers and sellers together? That's what we do in this industry. We bring buyers and sellers, together in some format. So I am incorporating a couple things. One, because they all build off of each other. You can't get one without the other. And we're really in a chicken and egg situation around when it comes to audience development and exhibitor data development. So we want to go after a new audience, which is going direct to the brands for their excess inventory. So one, I had to just go through a discovery phase, and I did. I went with all these brands in New York and in LA and understood how they are getting rid of their excess inventory, and then developing a product for them that might not be our trade show.
Right.
I think eventually we can get them. But one, develop a show within a show, because then all of a sudden you can start to incorporate sponsorships, better sponsorships, and create more packages versus your traditional contract.
Right.
So therefore, I need our general contractors to be more nimble and fast and quick, because I can get a package out and get a concept out and get the sales team trained.
Right.
Two is, what are ways that you can, well, let me take another step back. Forgive me if I'm all over the place.
No, it's okay.
But one of the things I just talked about is, and I am like obsessed with this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we as an industry have trained our audiences, our communities, to come to our websites for registration for hotels, and that's pretty much it, right? Dates.
What's the schedule?
Right. Yet we're getting pressure to build a digital advertising.
Right.
So how do you
make it worth their time to go to the website.
Right. Or how do we change that behavior? Because we made that behavior.
Right.
And that's what I think is so fascinating, is that we have to accept it and then say, okay, let's change that behavior.
Yeah. I mean, the example is most places will have the company website and then the event website.
Right.
So you're really not
you're not even incorporating
right.
it. It should be seamless. Right. And because again, we're talking to our community and stop talking to them once or twice a year. So, and I know it's not once or twice a year, but you know what I mean. So I'm looking into live stream shopping. It's been in China for the last, I've been doing business in China for 15, 20 years, and they're always 3 to 5 years ahead of us. So in this case, it's about 10 years old. Live stream shopping is essentially QVC, but online.
Okay.
And you're not gonna like this because it doesn't, but we can do stuff like this on site, so that it will involve your GC, I promise. So really what it is, it's QVC. What are the benefits of it? Right now, of all the e-commerce sales in China, 30% of it is all through live stream shopping. So it's basically, I'm watching someone on Instagram or I'm watching someone's website, and they're just doing exactly what they do on QVC. Video.
Right.
Look at this, look at this, look at this. It's a B2C tool, and no one's really using it in the B2B world.
Okay.
So in our scenario, right, for excess inventory, it's very opportunistic.
Right.
A lot of times they're like, I've got a pallet of, Nike shoes and I got to dump it and I can't find someone. Well, imagine if they could just jump online, go to their showroom, and then we alert all of those retailers that they want to segment out to, or all of them.
Right.
And then they can sell it like that.
Yeah.
It's very low cost.
Yeah,
it's very low barriers to entry. It's
and connecting but the buyers and the sellers that are going to be at the shows anyway, but just having them throughout the year engaged.
Right. And then suddenly now our website has a little bit more value without having us to become like content, heavy developers, which we're not. Right. Because no one's going to, I forget where we are. But no one's really going to. So it's a very low barrier to entry on our part. It's not like you're getting involved in e-commerce, because what you do is you click on the product and you go to their e-commerce site, right? So we're going to charge them like a monthly subscription type of thing. So that's what I'm passionate about.
That's good, because innovation has been like at the top of mind and top of subject matter this past year, and we talked about it. And you mentioned Rachel, and she and I spoke earlier today, and she made a comment that that resonated with me when she said, I think about what it's going to look like when my kid is at a trade show floor, and they're different people, they're different, like it's just everything is different the way they're doing things versus the way we did it when we were young. So what's that going to look like? And I was like, that really resonates with me because I think 10 years from now, many of my kids are in the industry. What's it going to look like? And how is the buyer seller experience going to be? So, I mean, as long as we continue to try to innovate and come up with new concepts that, with more touch points, I think that we're going to create some good things.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And let me know if we're done. No. But I think that's actually key. We just talked about that in our session, and it was really about leveraging B2C strategies within the B2B world.
Yeah.
And if you think about that Gen Z, right? What do they do at consumer events? They're passionate about it. They're very transactional. They're very used to technology, right? So they have wristbands that get them into everywhere they need to go. They streamline it. They know how to buy their tickets very easily. We are not that smooth,
right?
Even though there are amazing technologies and platforms and and dashboards, we have them all. I am not knocking at what we're doing, but we have to figure out a way to streamline.
Right.
We have to be able to create the FOMO with different VIP packages that are offering a wristband that starts at your house and a car picks you up and it gets to the hotel and you've got your key and your badge and you're done, right? Like, how can we get there? Black Amex, I know that has like a wristband that is just like it's a bracelet. Yeah, and so they can just pay their bill like that, right?
That's nice.
I don't have a Black Amex, but I know I have friends that do, so that's why I know about it. But so that's what I think it's going to look like, or it should.
Right. Yeah, and that's as seamless, frictionless as possible is the goal. And on our end, as a general service contractor, that's been our focus. This past year is like, how do we get easier, seamless, frictionless to our customers?
That's exactly right. I mean, at UFI, I liked when they had those two exhibitors on the stage when we were there. I don't know if you saw this session, but I thought it was very powerful to me what she said. And she's I forget the woman where she's from, but she's from a tech company. Yeah. But she said, get to yes faster.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And that's the difference of B2C. Like, it is, you can get to yes faster. You can create an experience with your GC that you're working with. But for some reason, we're just not there.
Yeah.
So I think from a GC standpoint, and I know that's not what you're asking, but it's becoming more nimble. Yeah. And I think, because I'm still not seeing it, because we, as an industry, correct me if I'm wrong, we as an industry still have the margin mentality, right? So therefore, we don't want to disrupt that platform.
That's fair. That's
right?
Fair, yeah.
Okay. To me, somebody like a GC are the ones that I think can come up with the ideas to give to the exhibitors. We have to give the exhibitors the ideas.
Right.
Right? I mean, I think,
because majority of the year, most exhibitors are not exhibitors. They're running their businesses.
Right.
So, and they rely on us for a cool experience, a cool buyer seller experience. So,
and we have to continue to give more KPIs to maintain that line item.
Yeah.
But we have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we have to come up with it. We have to work across the board internally, and then we have to develop it very much and show it to them in a silver platter, on a silver platter. And I think GCs could be that solution. I think it's Greg Topelian from Clarion who said last year, it's like surprise and delight. Right. So surprise and delight someone. Well, I come from the school where you don't have to be an exhibitor to utilize our show floor. So surprise me outside with some very cool experiential opportunity that you can still measure, but reaches that Gen Z guy or gal, and also shows what the future is going to look like. And the other thing I always say is, if you get one person to do it, I think they're all like 13-year-old girls and they follow. I mean, I'm picking on 13-year-old girls because I was one and I cried all the time. But so I was nice. So anyway, so I think that is what we need to be doing, and I think that's an opportunity for GCs.
Well,
and we did that
and,
with shipping crates.
Yes, yeah, and so it's always great to, well, for one, it's great to have the opportunity to work with you, and
Same with
I
you.
know we do get super creative when we start spitballing
Right.
ideas and stuff. So, and I think that there's lots of things that we could do to move the needle on this innovation thing. So.
Yeah, I think GCs are going to personally have a lot more control in the future to disrupt personally.
Well, I'll do my best.
Yes, disrupt, please do it.
All right. With that, thank you so much for being here. I know that they're probably going to kick us out of here soon. So.
Okay.
But again, I really appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Clearly, I can talk.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.